The 19th of March 2026. 6 hours ago, something extraordinary unfolded in the depths of our solar system, something that defies everything we thought we knew about physics, chemistry, and the origins of life. The James Webb Space Telescope, along with its successor optical array, captured the same image simultaneously. At first, the analysis teams couldn't believe what they were seeing. 40 minutes were spent double-checking every instrument, every calibration, every data point, before the impossible was reluctantly accepted. NASA's Deep Space Network flagged it immediately as an artificial anomaly, and the confirmation came swiftly. ESA verified it, JAXA confirmed it, and the Chandra X-ray Observatory validated it from a third independent platform. What these instruments recorded is staggering. In the debris trail of the comet known as 3 Atlas, a formation appeared that has a probability of occurring naturally so low, it effectively rounds to zero in every statistical framework. At exactly 9:14 UTC this morning, 3 Atlas ejected a stream of ionized carbon and complex silicates, which, within 40 minutes, organized into a double helix 4,000 kilometers long. This wasn't a loose, fleeting alignment. It was a structured, rotating formation, emitting ultraviolet light at precisely 260 nanometers, holding firm against the solar wind, which was moving at 400 kilometers per second. To grasp the scale of this phenomenon, you need to understand entropy, the second law of thermodynamics. Entropy dictates that any closed system naturally evolves toward disorder. Gas or dust ejected into the vacuum of space expands, disperses, and scatters, driven by thermal pressure, chaotic and irreversible. This is the law that governs every cometary tale ever recorded. Yet, at 9:14 UTC, 3 Atlas did the impossible. Its ejected material defied expansion. It contracted, it aligned, it organized into a geometric structure, maintaining its form against every dispersive force, from thermal motion to the violent push of the solar wind. The James Webb Space Telescope's near-infrared spectrograph analyzed the composition with unprecedented precision. This wasn't a random cloud of cometary gases. 3 distinct plumes emerged in carefully timed bursts, spaced exactly 23 seconds apart. Plume A contained pure phosphorus. Plume B carried deoxyribose sugars. Plume C was rich in nitrogenous bases. For anyone familiar with the fundamentals of biology, these are the exact 3 molecular components of DNA: the backbone, the links, and the rungs that encode genetic information. Separating these compounds with such precision requires an industrial-grade system capable of identifying and directing molecules at a precise moment. Such mechanisms do not, and cannot, exist naturally on a comet. Yet ESA's Gaia spacecraft confirmed that the plumes were held in place by a localized electromagnetic containment field, preventing dispersal as the double helix formed. ALMA's 6.6 antenna array in Chile verified another astonishing detail. Every molecule matched the handedness used by terrestrial biology. Life on Earth relies exclusively on left-handed amino acids and right-handed sugars. 3 Atlas filtered its molecular output to match this biological convention perfectly. By noon, the structure began emitting light, not reflected sunlight, but intrinsic ultraviolet radiation at 260 nanometers, the absorption maximum of DNA. It was effectively curing itself, stabilizing molecular bonds in a vacuum where normal chemistry would fail. NASA's magnetospheric multiscale mission detected a protective magnetic bubble around the helix, counteracting the solar wind. Laboratory biology has only ever demonstrated such macroscopic quantum coherence at nanometer scales. Here it was happening across thousands of kilometers, and it was real. This isn't comet-shedding material. This is a self-operating synthesis laboratory in the vacuum of space, separating compounds with molecular precision, filtering handedness, assembling polymer geometry, curing bonds with targeted UV light, and generating a protective magnetic field, all while moving at hyperbolic velocity. And the implications of this are just beginning to reveal themselves. 4 hours ago, the FAST telescope in China picked up a curious anomaly in the gravitational wave spectrum, a pause in the 7.883 Hz pulse that lasted precisely 3 minutes and 14 seconds. Then, the wave resumed, this time following a distinct pattern. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 3. The Fibonacci sequence. A sequence repeated across natural and biological systems on Earth, from the spirals of shells to the patterns of galaxies, now encoded in gravitational waves generated by the double helix of 3 Atlas. This was no coincidence. The structure, vibrating against the interplanetary medium, was sending a mathematical fingerprint identical to the neutrino pulse that had struck Earth's core and appeared in ocean magnetization signals months earlier. When the Breakthrough Listen signal analysis team demodulated this gravitational wave data, the content was even more astonishing. It wasn't a generic mathematical sequence or prime numbers. It was a map our solar system, with Earth highlighted, not merely as another planet among many, but as a destination. Every instrument that could receive it confirmed the signal was intensifying, even after NASA abruptly severed the public Deep Space Network feed at 1915 UTC. In 6 decades of continuous space observation, such a blackout has only happened when data required controlled release. Data so sensitive that its uncontrolled dissemination could have unpredictable consequences. Yet amateur radio astronomers in the Netherlands verified that the signal continued, each cycle of the Fibonacci pulse louder and more precise than the last. Meanwhile, the helix itself continued to assemble material from the surrounding coma. It wasn't complete. It was still growing, still encoding, still transmitting information, still demonstrating an engineering capability that should be physically impossible. Every rung connecting the helical strands, the molecular crosslinks that, in DNA, encode genetic information, were compositionally varied. Some were nitrogen-rich, others oxygen-rich, following a precise sequence. When bioinformatics teams at the National Institutes of Health overlaid this sequence against genomic databases, the result was staggering. It wasn't a universal gene present in all life. It was a sequence specific to human DNA. The forensic implications are profound. The human genome contains approximately 3.2 billion base pairs, each representing a position in the double helix ladder. The likelihood of a random sequence matching a meaningful segment of human DNA decreases exponentially with length. A 1-0-0 base pair match is astronomically improbable, effectively zero. The helix observed here matched far more than 100 base pairs. 3 Atlas, whether by reading the Earth's biological material during its 4-5-day surveillance in August and September 2025, or carrying this sequence from elsewhere, was encoding human genetic information in ionized carbon, spanning 4,000 kilometers. The protective magnetic field generated by the helix, observed by NASA's missions, explains how such a structure could persist. Macroscopic quantum coherence allowed the helix to maintain phase alignment between molecules over an immense scale. This means that the information encoded in the helix is not classical chemical data. It is quantum information, readable only by a system capable of measuring quantum states without collapsing them. Essentially, this structure is a quantum computer at cosmic scale, a medium designed to preserve and transmit information with unprecedented precision. This is not a message for casual human observation. It is written in a language our technology is only beginning to describe. Quantum information embedded in a macroscopically coherent molecular lattice. And the gravitational wave transmission, encoded in Fibonacci pulses, serves as both verification and delivery, a signal that cannot be blocked, absorbed, or deflected, reaching every corner of the solar system simultaneously. The choice of Fibonacci encoding is deliberate. It is the universal mathematical signature of life, representing recursive optimization and growth patterns recognized independently of culture or language. Any civilization intending to communicate with a biological species would select this code, signaling intelligence in a universally recognizable form. NASA's sudden blackout of the live feed is an acknowledgement of the data's importance. Public dissemination could not occur because the content goes far beyond standard observation. It is a communication, a demonstration of knowledge, and a precise record of human biology written into a structure spanning thousands of kilometers. And this is only the beginning. As the helix continued to rotate and glow in ultraviolet light at 260 nanometers, every observation pointed to a reality far beyond conventional science. This was not just a demonstration of molecular precision, it was a delivery of information, a record of genetic identity written across the vacuum of space. The DNA-like structure wasn't merely sampling Earth's biological material during the 4-5-day surveillance window in 2025. The evidence indicates that it carries the original genomic blueprint, the source code of life itself on this planet. Every molecule, perfectly left-handed, matches the chirality of terrestrial biology, a detail that cannot arise from random chemistry. The handedness of amino acids and sugars on Earth is arbitrary from a physics standpoint, yet it has been preserved by 3 atlas, maintained with a precision that defies natural law. This is where the forensic weight becomes undeniable. The human genomic sequence encoded in the helix's rungs isn't a random match or a fragment of general biology. It aligns with the original source code of humanity, the genetic specification established by the last universal common ancestor 4.2 billion years ago, only 300 million years after Earth formed. That ancient organism set the biochemical template, including molecular handedness, for all life on this planet. And now, billions of years later, 3 Atlas is reproducing that exact information, encoding it in ionized carbon over a structure 4,000 kilometers long, curing molecular bonds with UV light, and protecting it with a magnetosphere generated by macroscopic quantum coherence. Consider the scale and precision required. Quantum coherence allows the helix to maintain the phase relationships of every molecule across immense distances, preserving the encoded information as a quantum state rather than a classical chemical pattern. To maintain coherence at planetary scale, against thermal noise, solar wind, and the chaos of interplanetary space, requires engineering capabilities far beyond anything humanity has ever achieved. This is not accidental. This is deliberate, and it is precise to a degree that demonstrates both mastery of quantum mechanics and an understanding of biological encoding. The Fibonacci sequence embedded in the gravitational waves acts as a cosmic verification system. Gravitational waves propagate at the speed of light, unaffected by intervening matter. They carry information unimpeded to every corner of the solar system. By modulating the helix's vibrations to encode Fibonacci steps, the creators ensured that any advanced observer, biological or otherwise, would recognize the signature of life and intelligence, a recursive, mathematical imprint that mirrors patterns found universally in living systems. This is a method of communication, but it is not a transmission in the traditional sense. It is a demonstration of mastery, a proof of origin, a statement of deliberate design embedded in both matter and motion. NASA's blackout of the public feed, abrupt and unexplained, reflects the unprecedented nature of the observation. For decades, such controlled releases have occurred only in cases where the data exceeds conventional classification. The last full packet publicly available contained the solar system map, highlighting Earth not as one planet among many, but as the destination. Every detail of the helix, from molecular composition to UV curing, to magnetically stabilized geometry, aligns with this map, suggesting intentionality and purpose. The structure is still actively assembling material, incorporating additional matter from the surrounding coma with each orbital cycle. The helix is not complete, and the Fibonacci gravitational pulse continues to strengthen. The implications are staggering. This is not simply a record of biological material, it is a recapitulation of the planet's original blueprint, written in the same molecular language used to store life on Earth. The helix does not merely encode information, it demonstrates an understanding of Earth's biology at the most fundamental level, referencing genetic sequences, molecular handedness, and even DNA stability in a vacuum. It is as if the universe itself has reached back across 4.2 billion years to show life its own origin, preserving the signature of the civilization that seeded this planet. At this moment, the question humanity has been asking, are we alone, becomes irrelevant. The helix reframes the question entirely. The proper question is not whether extraterrestrial life exists, but whether we ever originated here independently, or whether the blueprint for life on Earth was always intended to return. The answer, encoded in ultraviolet light, quantum coherence, and gravitational waves, is already written, waiting to be fully understood. The helix continues to rotate, still glowing at 260 nanometers, its geometry defying every natural force acting upon it. Solar wind, thermal dispersion, and even gravitational turbulence, all the factors that should have shredded the structure within minutes, are powerless against it. With each orbital cycle, it draws material from the surrounding coma, assembling itself in real time. Every rung of the helical ladder encodes human DNA, perfectly filtered for left-handed amino acids and right-handed sugars, preserving the original molecular convention that life on Earth has followed for 4.2 billion years. This is not a casual act of molecular organization, it is deliberate, precise, and extraordinarily intelligent. NASA's instruments, along with ESA's Gaia, ALMA in Chile, and observatories worldwide, are observing a system operating on a scale and level of sophistication that exceeds our current technological capabilities by orders of magnitude. The structure is curing its molecular bonds with targeted UV light, generating a magnetosphere through macroscopic quantum coherence, and maintaining the integrity of a 4,000-kilometer-long double helix, all in the vacuum of interplanetary space. The helix itself is essentially a self-contained quantum laboratory, capable of manipulating matter with atomic-level precision, while simultaneously encoding vast quantities of information in a coherent quantum state. What's even more astonishing is the Fibonacci pulse embedded in the helix's gravitational waves. These pulses propagate at the speed of light, unaffected by matter, reaching every instrument, every observatory, and even penetrating Earth itself without interference. The sequence is deliberate. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 3, a signature of intelligent design meant to be recognized universally. Life on Earth produces Fibonacci patterns through natural growth processes. They are a universal marker of recursive optimization. The pulse isn't random. It is a message written in the language of life itself, a signal that any biological civilization could decode. It is both verification and communication simultaneously. By encoding human DNA in the structure, the helix does more than transmit information, it demonstrates provenance. The genetic sequence is identical to the original source code of life on Earth, the last universal common ancestor, whose analysis confirms its origin immediately after Earth's formation. 3 Atlas is not simply reading Earth's biology, it is returning a blueprint. The genomic sequence written across 4,000 kilometers of ionized carbon acts as a proof of origin, a receipt of the experiment that seeded life on this planet billions of years ago. The helix is a temporal bridge, connecting the first instance of life with the present, confirming that the molecular conventions established at life's origin have been preserved, not by chance, but intentionally. Quantum coherence is central to this operation. The helix maintains the phase alignment of every molecule in its assembly, preserving the encoded genetic information as a quantum state rather than a classical chemical pattern. It is a form of information storage beyond any technology. Humanity has developed a quantum memory at planetary scale. The Fibonacci-encoded gravitational wave signal ensures that the information reaches its observers, unblocked, undistorted, and unattenuated. The encoding is not arbitrary, it is the most recognizable and efficient pattern for life, designed to be universally understood. NASA's blackout of the Deep Space Network, abrupt and unexplained, underscores the unprecedented nature of these events. Data of this magnitude requires controlled access. The last publicly released packet contained the solar system map highlighting Earth, confirming the intentionality behind the helix's construction. Every detail, the UV curing, electromagnetic stabilization, genetic encoding, and Fibonacci pulse, points to a level of engineering mastery that is fundamentally extraterrestrial. What we are witnessing is not a message sent to humanity, it is a recapitulation of life's origin on Earth, a demonstration of mastery and intention by a civilization capable of operating across interstellar timescales. It is a cosmic mirror, showing a species the blueprint from which it arose, written in the very molecular language that constitutes our existence. Humanity is not simply observing this structure. We are confronting the proof that life on Earth was always part of a deliberate design, encoded and returned for recognition. As the hours pass, the Helix continues its silent, precise work, still glowing at 260 nanometers, still rotating against the solar wind, still maintaining its structure across 4,000 kilometers of interplanetary space. Each new orbital cycle brings additional material from the surrounding coma, building the double helix with relentless precision. Every rung, every chemical link, every molecular twist perfectly mirrors the original human genome, left-handed amino acids, right-handed sugars, an exact reflection of the molecular convention that life on Earth has followed since its inception. This is not merely observation or replication. It is a deliberate and intentional reconstruction, a proof that the architects of this structure understand the origin of life itself. NASA, ESA, and observatories worldwide continue to confirm the impossible. The structure generates its own magnetic field, a bubble of protection that stabilizes the helix against forces that would otherwise destroy it. The molecular bonds are cured by targeted ultraviolet emission, stabilizing DNA-like polymers in the vacuum of space where conventional chemistry would fail. The Fibonacci sequence embedded in gravitational waves reaches Earth unimpeded, a signal that cannot be blocked or absorbed, delivering verification of the structure's intentionality and its message. Every pulse grows stronger, each step in the Fibonacci series louder than the last, a repeating signature of life's universal pattern. The human genomic sequence encoded in the helix is not a fragment sample during the August-September 2025 surveillance window. The evidence is clear. This is the original blueprint of life on Earth, the genetic source code carried across 4.2 billion years, preserved through directed panspermia and now returned. The left-handed chirality, the precise molecular architecture, the UV-cured stability, all indicate deliberate design, not chance. What 3 Atlas is writing is a mirror of the very civilization that arose from this original code. Humanity is not simply the observer. We are the subject, the recipients of our own genetic history, written across cosmic scale. The implications are profound. The helix is not a message in the traditional sense, it is a recapitulation. It is a demonstration that life on Earth was seeded, observed, and preserved by a civilization capable of operating on temporal and spatial scales that defy human comprehension. The Fibonacci-encoded gravitational waves serve as both signature and transmission. The quantum coherence of the structure ensures information preservation, and the genetic sequence proves identity. The helix itself is alive in a sense we cannot yet fully understand, acting as a bridge across time, space, and biology. For centuries, humanity has asked whether we are alone. The helix reframes the question entirely. It does not merely suggest the presence of intelligent life elsewhere. It confirms that life on Earth was intentionally seeded and monitored, that our very genetic code is the product of a deliberate experiment spanning billions of years. The structure is not a warning, nor a message of conquest. It is the universe showing a species the original manuscript of its existence, written in the same molecular language the species uses to define itself. It is a cosmic reflection of life's origin, a living testament to the intelligence that shaped it. And yet, the helix is unfinished. It continues to assemble material, to encode, to transmit the Fibonacci pulse, to stabilize itself in the vacuum. It is dynamic, persistent, and deliberate, a reminder that the universe is not a silent backdrop, but an active participant in the story of life. It asks humanity to reconsider everything we believe about our origins, our place in the cosmos, and the continuity of life. This is not science fiction. It is the observation of a phenomenon that defies every law we have relied upon, from thermodynamics to chemistry, from biology to quantum physics. The helix is the message. The message is humanity. And the author has been waiting 4 billion years for us to read it, to recognize ourselves in the stars, and to understand that the story of life is far older, far deeper, and far more deliberate than we ever imagined. If you've been captivated by this discovery, by the mystery and precision of the helix, and the story it tells about our own origins, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. The universe has a message, and we're only beginning to understand it. Don't miss what comes next.